Chapter 69. Michael. When it's finally half term, the last thing I want to do is stay at my parents' house and face a massive wedding to-do list. But Jen points out that it's our last opportunity to have an extended stay before the big day. I almost wish there was some way I could escape the house with Dad, but she's asked for his input on choosing hymns, which is an offer he can't refuse. "This is a classic wedding choice," he says, riffling through hymn music and playing the first verse on the piano. "In fact, we sang this at our wedding." "Be thou my vision," Jen reads from the title, then starts Googling the words. What does this line mean? Thou mine inheritance now and always. I look at her sideways. Is she trying to make a jibe about the prenup? It goes back to the tribe of priests in the Old Testament, my dad says. I feel myself beginning to switch off. They had no land because the Lord was their inheritance. How could they inherit God? Jen asks. She seems to be serious about this line of questioning. I pull out my phone to check my emails. It's more of a metaphor, my dad explains. Instead of passing on land to their children, they would pass on faith. And instead of making their property on earth the most important thing, they were meant to make God the most important thing instead. Which ties into God being our vision, like in the title, Jen says. It's quite archaic language, but I like it. Billy Graham, a famous preacher, once said that the greatest legacy one can pass on to one's children is not money or other material things, but a legacy of character and faith, Dad says. He loves to quote people. Wow, Jen says. Michael, do you agree with that? I look up from my inbox. Do you think that passing on a legacy of faith is more important than money? Jen asks me. Sure, I say. Maybe you should start making more time for church then, she says. I blink. Since when were we talking about church? A few months ago, she'd never stepped inside one before. Now she and my dad are staring expectantly at me, waiting for me to have a religious epiphany. She sighs and turns back to the hymn book. I'll need to send the words to Katie to put in the order of service, she says. We're going to be here a long time at this rate. I start daydreaming about going out for a walk, to Bestwood perhaps. Now, the seating plan. Oh, help. I think I should go for a run. I clear my throat. Sure. Jen waves her hand, focused on her laptop screen as she pulls up what Katie sent over. Oh yes, when is the marathon again? Mum asks, calling from the kitchen, but I've already headed out of the door and it's easy to pretend not to have heard her. I put my headphones in and start to jog, tracking the familiar territory of my childhood. The sun is pale, but there's no frost on the ground today. I turn the corner and run down the street full of cherry blossoms, the pink forming bright clouds above my head. I love the freedom of running. I don't have to talk to anyone, answer any questions. My swarming thoughts start to calm, and I take in deep gulps of cool air. Soon I've reached the stile, and I'm on the dirt track running alongside the cliff top, the sea foaming down below. The air feels clearer here. A seagull swoops and calls. Running is easy and simple. I know the pattern of my movement, of my breathing, how it feels to reach different distances. When it comes to Jen and the horrible secret of the marathon, everything is sickeningly unfamiliar and unpredictable. The burden of telling her turns my insides with guilt and fear. I know theoretically that lying is wrong and that the longer I leave it, the worse it's going to be, but I'm still holding out for some kind of divine intervention that means I won't have to tell her. After all, there's bound to be things she hasn't told me. What about her relationship history? She wasn't very quick to elaborate on that. Maybe there was more to it than she told me, things she withheld because she thought I'd react badly. I picture the wedding day, Jen in a dazzling white dress, and then what happens when we're alone. What if I do everything wrong? I'm usually overly confident in my own abilities, but not in this area. I just want it to be perfect. I switch my focus to the rippling water and try to stop thinking about it. These things usually work out, don't they? There's no point worrying. When I get back, I shower and then find a sheet of paper Jen's left on my desk. I name, take you, name, to be my wife, husband, to have and to hold, from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do us part, according to God's holy law, in the presence of God, I make this vow. My eyes scan over the familiar words, but I find myself sinking down to sit on the bed, my hand shaking as I hold the page. This is the promise I'm making. Jen might get cancer, like her mum. We might go through hard times financially. Will I love and cherish her? Am I loving and cherishing her now? Not if I don't tell her the truth. I fold the page in half and stand up, fueled by resolution. I stride downstairs with determination. I'm going to tell her. Just as I reach the bottom of the stairs, Mum comes out of the kitchen and smiles when she sees me. She takes my hand and presses it, nodding towards the lounge. They've been getting on so well. I can see Jen and my dad looking at the laptop screen together and talking. I knew he would come round. I turn back to Mum and she has tears in her eyes. I pull her into a hug, smelling her familiar perfume and feeling her brittle shoulders. I'm so happy for you, she whispers. Thanks, Mum, I say. I pull back and step forwards into the lounge. Dad and Jen look up. Come and see, Jen beckons to me. Here, why don't you sit here? Dad stands and gestures for me to take his place. I thought I'd make some coffee. I was just putting some on, Mum smiles. Great minds, Dad says, and they leave us alone. We've got Be Thou My Vision, Jen scrolls down the document, Love Divine, and Amazing Grace. What do you think? They look perfect, I say, covering her hand with my own. She turns to smile at me, and I touch her jaw with my finger. I just read the vows. I need to tell you something. I hesitate for a microsecond. It's about the marathon. It's okay, Jen replies, kissing my finger. David already spoke to me. What? He did? Yes. You know, he was surprisingly decent. He does care about you more than I gave him credit for. I'm in a parallel universe. If I look out of the window, the sky will be purple with 3 moons. I agreed that I didn't want to stress you out any more than you already are, she continues, so it's all fine and you don't need to worry. I exhale and feel relief immediately easing the tight knot in my stomach. I love you, I say, cupping her face in my hands. I love you too, she replies.